do you make sure your body is always ready to go, that it is fully capable of doing what you want to do when you want to do it? On this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, it's exactly what we're discussing. We're going to cue our introduction and dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we are discussing this idea of how do you make sure that your body is always ready to go, that you are always ready to do the things that you want to do when you want to do them. And we want to let you know that if what we're discussing today is of interest to you, you want to get your body to that level, it's exactly what we can help you do at Muscle Activation Schaumburg using muscle activation techniques. So all you have to do to get started with muscle activation techniques is head to our website, www.matschaumburg.com. There you'll find a big green button that you can click that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. Okay, so this question came up during a conversation that I was having with one of my clients. It was his first session, and he's like, Charlie, I really like playing basketball. I'm in my late 30s, and I want to make sure that, at a moment's notice, I can pick up a ball and I can start playing, just like I did when I was 15, 16 years old. And most people, by the time they hit their mid-30s, they know that for them, that's not really the case anymore. And he doesn't want that to be that way. He wants to make sure that, hey, I can keep doing the things I want to do when I want to do them. I'm not being held back by my body. I'm not feeling these aches, these pains. I don't have to worry about like, oh, if I just start and I don't do, a 30-minute warm-up, I'm going to injure myself or anything like that. And so it was a great discussion that we had and really kind of laid out for him what we want to lay out for you today. But understand that this goes far beyond just the scope of basketball, all right? Whether it's gardening, walking, going for a run, skiing, whatever it is in your life that you like to do, or, your grandkids come running towards you and you just want to be able to pick up, kneel down, pick them up, stand up with them and not have to think, oh gosh, hold up, like I got to do my stretches so I don't throw out my back, and all this stuff. Like you can just live your life uninhibited by your body. How do you go about doing that? That's what we want to talk with you about today.
That's right. I think one of the most beautiful things about exercise and MAT is that we geek out on it, we love it, but the fact that it allows people to live the life they want to live. And I think that if you're here listening to this, you're probably like a little bit health-minded, you're definitely proactive, at least with your movement regimen or your movement interests, and you realize like, hey, if you just let life go the way it's going to go, life will slowly start taking away your ability to do a lot of stuff. Like Charlie's client example, like the feeling like I could pick up a basketball and go play anytime. But this shows up in people's lives, like what Charlie was saying, way more than just in basketball. That could be, your trip that you plan once a year to go skiing. You don't ski all year, and then once a year you're like, well, it's time to ski. Am I ready for that? Or you go on a vacation and you're like, well, we signed up to go horseback riding on the beach. Is my body ready for that? And so today is going to be a tactical dive in to what you can be doing to make sure your body is as ready as possible for doing the things that you want to be doing in life, because we have, all of us, a huge amount of input, active, voluntary role in how we're going to be able to manage our physical life as we age. A lot of times we think age is the majority rule, but it's not. It's actually our physical actions, our physical routines, our input into our bodies, not just the passage of time. So if you follow these steps and you think along these lines, you're going to be more and more able to do the things that you want to do when you want to do them without some highly calculated management right before it happens. And so the beautiful thing about this is that it's going to allow you to live your life the way you want and the way that you envisioned it happening, instead of having time and age kind of slowly take that away from you.
Exactly. And so we're approaching it from kind of a couple different angles. One is making sure that you're not going to get injured while you do the thing. And then two, making sure that you can actually do the thing at the level that you want to do it. Because it's not that fun to be like, okay, well, I want to go out, and go for a run. And then, all you can do is go for a walk, because if you try to push for a run, then you start to feel like your hamstring go or something like that. Like, not only do you want to be doing the thing, but you also want to be doing it at the level that you want to do it, and then make sure that you're not hurting yourself in the process. So there's a couple things that we need to have going on within our bodies in order to check, all those criteria and make sure that we can do it injury free and do it at the level that we're wanting to do it. And the first is we need to make sure that our muscles are working well to begin with, okay? If you have muscles that are inhibited, if you have muscles that aren't contracting well, aren't doing their jobs well, that's going to force other muscles to have to compensate. Pick up the slack. Those muscles get overworked. Those muscles get tight. Your joints can become more achy because you're starting to put weird stresses across them. Your more passive tissues like your ligaments, your discs, your fascia, your tendons, those can start to get more stressed out. We can start to have symptoms with those. So really the first place is like, all right, if we're going to go do this thing, let's make sure the things that we are going to be using while we're doing it, i.e. your muscles, they can actually work well to begin with. So that's really step one with this.
That's right. You know that you need to investigate this muscles working well thing or get your muscles working better. If you start doing motions and it feels pretty stiff and achy and not that smooth, maybe uncoordinated, and then like as you move along, maybe things start feeling better and things start feeling like more warmed up. When your muscles are working better and more are turned on and activated, that warm-up period is shorter and shorter. So as you can imagine, like if you're thinking about picking up a basketball and playing basketball, it's like, okay, my time to play is, is it a 20-minute like get ready experience? Or is it a 5-minute get ready experience? Is it a 2-minute get ready experience? And so when you're thinking about, okay, this muscles working thing is it's all about how quickly is your body ready to start exerting yourself. Because as you start moving, muscles start firing a lot of times and it takes a little bit of time. But the more that muscles are working right away, the more that you can kind of jump into your activities without such a long warm-up period.
Exactly. And what's interesting about this is largely an electrical type of thing, meaning it's the process of your brain realizing, okay, we're not just going to be at a resting state. I'm not going to fight you saying, okay, we're going to push ourselves hard. I got to get things ramped up more. And so we're going to start to access larger areas of kind of our electrical system to get more muscles, firing, to get, everything on board, everything working well. And so this is an electrical problem that, needs to be in place, or electrical component that needs to be in place within our systems. And what we see is as you go longer and longer without doing the things, and as more and more of our lives go by, we start to, these electrical aspects, they start to kind of go downhill a little bit, where it becomes more difficult to, get the machinery running, so to speak. It becomes more difficult to kind of get, these electrical systems really ramped up compared to when you're younger or when you are more practiced with the thing. And so we're going to talk about how you go about kind of refining the electrical systems within your body. But understand, like, that's the first component here, is kind of making sure your muscles are working well, and that's largely an electrical thing.
You bring up such a good point, Charlie, where when we're thinking about the electrical stimulation of muscle, meaning like your brain and your nervous system can talk and communicate well to your muscles, that's like a connection piece. And so a lot of our clients are like, well, why would I start losing connection? Is it just an age problem? Kind of, it could be an age problem, but it doesn't have to be an age problem. The only reason that it can be an age problem is that if you're doing the wrong stuff as time goes by, right? So the things that make muscles and the brain and the muscles communicate more poorly, which we're saying, hey, we need to amp that up, we need to refine that, is when you're overusing certain things. So let's say you do something all the time at a high level and it's kind of an overuse type thing. Underuse, meaning you don't do anything. Like when people come in, my knee's hurting. I didn't do anything to it though. That's a problem. You got to do stuff to it to keep it healthy and strong and connected. And then misuse. So that would be like a trauma or an injury, or, you stepped funny. It could be anything from like a step funny to a big injury, like a trauma. So the brain will say like, oh my gosh, don't send signal over there because, we've had some trauma there. We don't need to be activating and using muscles temporarily. So the more that we can level out this, this connection issue, the thing we do with that is, we'll jump into it, but it's called muscle activation technique. So we want to make sure that muscles are firing as well as possible. And this is highly influenced by what you're doing on your daily basis. And that's going to kind of lead us into step number 2, which is making sure that your muscles are not only connected, but they're also conditioned and strong.
Exactly. So we're moving away from the electrical piece and then now more into called the mechanical piece, okay? And making sure that really the mechanics of your muscles, from like an output perspective, your muscles are strong. Like you're doing strength training, you are working your muscles. Your muscles can handle your body weight. Your muscles can handle multiples of your body weight. Look, the difference from a muscle force perspective between like walking and jogging and running and sprinting, and landing from jumps, everything like that. Like we're talking multiples of your body weight is what your muscles have to be able to handle. As you get into the more intense stuff, the sprinting, the landing, everything like that, the cutting, changing directions. So the more of those things that you're wanting to do, the stronger your muscles are going to have to be in order to be able to tolerate doing all those things, in order to make sure that your joints still stay protected, that your ligaments and everything else stay intact and stay protected. And so because of that, like making sure that your muscles are strong is a really, really big piece of this puzzle. And so this is the second thing that you need to make sure that you're doing.
I think a lot of people underestimate this part. Like when we're having aches and pains, we do think like, oh, something must be wrong. Like there's must like some compensation that's not going well. But a lot of us pass by the fact that like, hey, I might just be weak. I might just be deconditioned, because until a certain point of your life, unless you're like an athlete, or even if you are an athlete, most of the activities that you do are well below, like well below like your tolerance, your upper limit. And as you get older, because you keep not practicing approaching your upper limit starts decreasing. And that's why we call it like, oh, I'm just getting old. Well, no, you are getting old and time is passing, and more time has passed that you haven't visited your upper range. And so that's what makes muscles deconditioned and weak, is that we haven't rehearsed lifting 50 pounds. We haven't practiced, squatting with weight on our back. We haven't practiced holding something in our arms like a child and doing, a lunge, like lunging down and grabbing a Lego, and that's why it threw out your back. You haven't practiced that much. Your muscles are incredibly deconditioned. And so just because you're exercising and moving doesn't mean that you're maintaining your strength. You're going to get the adaptations that you're training for. So what we're saying here is that like if you are wanting to do an activity that requires strength, you got to practice your strength. If you want to do an activity that requires endurance, you got to practice the endurance, right? So you got to practice the components of your strength so that your muscles are prepared as much as possible for whatever you're hoping to be able to pick up and do. Remember, that's like, I want to pick up and do skiing once a year, even though I don't practice it ever. I want to pick up and do basketball, once a week, even though, I'm not doing it every day. I want to be able to pick it up and do it, right? So making sure that your muscles stay connected, step one, and making sure that muscles stay strong and conditioned, which is step number two.
Exactly, Julie. One thing that I really like that you brought up was this idea of like, hey, you got to challenge yourself near your uppermost limits. And because a lot of times we think, okay, well, I'm doing my weights. And it's like, okay, well, how heavy are you going relative to what you could do? Because the more of a discrepancy there is between how much you're challenging yourself and how much you could actually tolerate challenging yourself, the bigger that discrepancy, the faster you will start dipping down towards the level where you're actually challenging yourself. Because like you were saying, Julie, like our bodies adapt to the stimuli that we're placing upon it. So if, for example, you have the ability to say like shoulder press 30 pounds, but you're only shoulder pressing 10 pounds because you don't want to hurt yourself, well, you're telling your body, oh, I only need to be strong enough to shoulder press 10 pounds. So then don't be surprised when all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm feeling like I'm getting a lot weaker, even though I'm doing strength training. It's like, yeah, because you're not telling your body that it needs to maintain its strength, let alone build its strength. You're telling it that, oh, it's okay to get weaker because we just can get weaker to this level because that's only as strong as we need to be. So you actually need to be challenging yourself, pushing towards your limits, doing so in a safe manner, of course, but still understanding that pushing towards those limits is a really, really big thing. Now, if you're hearing this, you might be thinking, okay, well, the reason why I can't do, my running is not because of my muscles, it's because of my knee, or it's because, of this joint or that joint. We're to tell you, look, we have not seen it ever be the case where when you get your muscles functioning better and you get your muscles stronger, that the joints itself aren't largely taken care of. Now, there are some exceptions to that, right? Like if you are in need of a joint replacement or something like that, like there can be structural reasons why it's like, okay, this joint is no longer sufficient for what you are trying to do. But for the most part, for most people, the things that you're feeling as joint issues, switch it in your mind and say, oh, this is actually a muscle issue. Either my muscles aren't connected or my muscles aren't strong enough. And if you can start to make that switch, now all of a sudden, there's a lot that you can do about it. Because there's not that much you can actually do about your joints unless you are willing to get them replaced, which is not a bad thing. It's not a wrong thing for many people. Many people are in need of that. But if you're looking for something that you can start doing today, then understand that, hey, I want to be proactive about this. Switch your focus away from your joints and put it towards, hey, I need to make sure my muscles are connected. I need to make sure my muscles are strong. And that will go a long ways towards helping you do the things that you want to do. So how do we go about doing that? That's exactly what we want to talk with you about now.
So the first thing that addresses the muscles working well, make sure your muscles are connected, is you got to get on the table and get some MAT. One thing that a lot of people don't even know about is that your muscles can become less communicative or less responsive to your brain. And actually, that's oftentimes a specific response for your brain to like protect a certain area for a certain experience. And then we move on and that compensation stays there and your body's not figuring things out. So with muscle activation techniques, we want to invite your body to use all the muscles that you should be using when you do a certain joint motion. So muscle activation techniques is going to be the most efficient way to check in on that connectivity piece of having your body and muscles ready for your activities.
Yeah, this really is the first place to start. And it's exactly why you explained, Julie, is because we need to make sure that your muscles are working well before you go and exercise, all right? If you try to exercise and your muscles aren't working well, your body's going to default to only using the muscles that are already working well, which means you are furthering compensations. You are strengthening muscles, yes, but only the ones that are already strong and working well to begin with, while all the other muscles that are inhibited, that are dysfunctional, that aren't working well, that are the issues to begin with, your body's just going to keep compensating around those, creating greater disparity and continuing to overwork the muscles that are already overworking to begin with. So this is why MAT is such an important piece of this puzzle, is like, hey, let's tune up your electrical system. Make sure that your brain and your nervous system are communicating with your muscles, getting your muscles to contract, helping your muscles to do exactly what it is they're supposed to do. So then when we move to step number 2, now you have a fully operational body that you can go bring into your workouts, which step number 2 is to be doing your strength training, okay? Doing your strength training on a consistent basis, minimum of really, like, in my mind, everybody should be doing it at least 3 times a week. Like if you're not doing it 3 times a week, you are just hoping to maintain at best, right? And so making sure that you're doing your strength training at least 3 times a week and on a consistent basis, it doesn't necessarily have to be every single workout, but at least on a consistent basis, you are pushing towards your uppermost limits, okay? Where you are pushing towards like, okay, this is really challenging. It doesn't mean that you're trying to do your 1 rep max. It means that like, okay, if you're doing, shoulder press with 10s and you could actually do 30s, you aren't stopping after a couple reps where it starts to burn. You're not stopping after like 10 reps where it starts to feel tiring. Like you're going to a place, every once in a while, you're going to a place where it's like, wow, like I'm really pushing myself as much as I can with this given weight. And then you're telling your body, hey, like we need to maintain this strength. We need to, keep building upon this strength because what life is asking of us is, to be able to tap in and to utilize this strength. And so doing that on a consistent basis, again, using our 4 exercise for life principles, which we've talked about in podcasts past, to go over them quickly, is number 1, make sure you are staying within your symptom-free full range of motion. That means no pinching, no pain, no stretching feeling while you're doing the exercise. Number 2 is to control your moving and non-moving segments, so areas of your body that you're staying still and the areas of your body that are moving, you maintain that throughout the entirety of the exercise. Number 3 is move slowly. And number 4 is focus on squeezing your muscles. You apply those 4 exercise for life principles, you'll be able to work out with weights that are really challenging for you and do so in a way that is safe for your body because you are respecting your body while you're working out.
Now, I want to highlight an example of this because I think that if you are listening to this, especially if you're like triple speeding us, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, so Julie and Charlie said it perfectly. When I work out, I need to be, really pushing myself. And we don't mean just general pushing yourself. In fact, I used to work out in a way that like every workout, I felt like if I wasn't really pushing myself, then what was I getting out of it? And what I was getting out of it was that my strength was not increasing. And in fact, I was just really, really tired all the time. And so what we're saying is that in the very specific structured times of your workout, there are times that you explore your uppermost range of, force tolerance. So how heavy are you lifting? And so it's not like a crazy athletic workout where, everyone's crawling out of the gym, dripping sweat everywhere, borderline injured. We're saying, hey, as an example, when you do your shoulder press, let's really explore the upper ranges of strength for your shoulders. So great, grab your 5s. That feels good. Wait, we're warmed up. Move up to the 10s, move up to the 20s, move up to the 30s, following the 4 Exercise for Life principles so that you're not getting injured. But again, this is going to teach your shoulders like, hey, we sometimes explore this upper range that we have, so we better keep owning it. We can't lose it. We got to keep it. Same would apply to, a squat or all the other exercises, your push-ups, whatever workouts you're doing. But we're not saying the whole workout needs to be a body thrash where you feel awful and your whole system is at its maximum. We're saying these structured moments. And I think that's where a lot of people feel like, oh, well, I can't do what Julie and Charlie are saying because I can't do like a CrossFit workout or something. We're not saying that. We're saying that in these structured times, making sure you're maintaining your joint health, and by following the 4 Exercise for Life principles, make sure you're regularly exploring these upper ranges, not smashing them.
Exactly. And then step number 3 is make sure that whatever skill, whatever activity it is that you're wanting to do, you actually practice the requisite skills. Every once in a while. It doesn't have to be a daily thing. You don't have to be doing, a 2-hour basketball practice, so every once in a while you can go out and play pickup. It's like, no, but you need to make sure that your body is used to doing the movements, used to doing the skills, executing the skills that you are going to be utilizing when you're doing the activities that you're wanting to do. You brought up skiing. It's like, okay, you might only ski, 1 weekend a year or whatever, but making sure that, throughout the rest of the year, you are doing other things that, might challenge your balance or, get you into, similar positions as skiing and, again, utilize the same muscle groups and everything like that. Or, maybe you don't, travel, we're in the Midwest here, so maybe you don't travel out west to go skiing. Maybe you find just like, a local hill and, do a number of runs on a day or whatever. Whatever it is, like make sure that you are at least practicing that skill on somewhat of a consistent basis. So when you want to go and do that thing at a higher level, at the level that you want to, it's not like something brand new that your body's having to relearn. It's like, oh yeah, like I remember how to do this. I've been doing it, fairly recently, and you can get right back into it.
You're totally right, Charlie. And I want to highlight a difference between step 2, which is strength training, like your workouts, and skills practice. Because a lot of times we see people being like, well, I'll just combo them and then they're extra good, right? So it's like, I'm a golfer. So when I go to do my workouts, I do a golf specific workout. That actually should be your skills work. That is not your strength training. Strength training is designed to build your body. So it's designed to build your elbow to be the strongest, most functional elbow that you have. And that applies to everything. You're there to build your core as the strongest, most functional core that you can have. Not necessarily just for golf, but for anything that you put your core to or hips, right? You can apply it to any area of the body. So strength training is designed to get your body to function the best as a human body. Your skills training is then teaching your body like the coordination and the specific intricacies of whatever you're going to be exposing your body to. So for example, golfing, that's when you would practice your golf swing or practice the intricacies of your swing or your feet or whatever. Or skiing, right? What Charlie was saying, the different components of skiing, whether you're practicing your balance or practicing, your squat holds or whatever, is appropriate for your things you love to do in your life. But know that they are very different. Number 2 is all about strengthening your body to be the best body. Number 3 is about applying the strength you've built in your body and then fine-tuning the skills towards the stuff that you're interested in.
Exactly. So if you're hearing this right now and you're like, okay, cool, like I need to make sure that I'm doing all three of these things. How do I get started? You would like our guidance with that? It's exactly what we can help you do at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, and starting with muscle activation techniques, okay? All you have to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to www.matschaumburg.com. We have a big green button you can click that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. And we can figure out where within your body you're having breakdowns in the electrical system, which is causing muscles to not work well. Get those muscles tuned up, so then we can move you into step 2, which is the strength training side of things, and really build up your strength. So then when you go into step 3 and you start practicing the skill, now you have a body that's fully operational, that's strong, that's functioning well. You can start to practice that skill and allowing you to do what you want to do when you want to do it at the level that you want to do it. So again, all you have to do to get started is go to www.matschaumburg.com, click that big green button, and we look forward to seeing you on our MAT table soon. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for giving us your ears, your eyes, wherever you're listening or watching to us, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, share this with somebody that needs to hear this information. We always really appreciate it. And we're wishing you an amazing week, a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.